Everyone thinks they can spot the smartest person in the room. But statistically, they're usually pointing at the wrong person. The loudest voice, the fastest answer, the most confident speaker. But the highest IQ person in that room? They're often the quietest and the most misunderstood. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Some of the traits that signal high intelligence are the exact ones society quietly punishes. So if you've ever felt out of place in your own life, this might explain why. We like to imagine intelligence as a superpower, clear thinking, quick decisions, effortless success. But in reality, it's a different kind of mind entirely. It doesn't switch off. It keeps digging, questioning, analyzing, long after everyone else has moved on. And for many people, this doesn't feel like a gift. It feels like being trapped inside a brain that won't slow down. Pattern 1. The embarrassingly simple question. In a meeting, everyone's building ideas, sounding productive. Then one person quietly asks, "Wait, what problem are we actually solving?" And suddenly, everything stops, because no one defined it, while others rush to sound smart. This mind checks if the foundation is even real. They ask things like, how do we know this is true? What are we assuming without proof? Not beginner questions, just questions most people avoid asking. Pattern 2. The emotional buffer. Most people react instantly. Something happens, they feel it, they express it. But here, there's a gap. Emotion comes in and gets processed before it's shown. So in arguments, you don't react immediately. But hours later, you replay everything perfectly in your head. You think, why didn't I say that? It's not that you don't feel deeply. You just process deeply first. Pattern 3. Forensic observation. You don't just listen, you observe. You notice who got quiet at a certain topic, who's pretending, who's slightly uncomfortable but hiding it, while others are thinking about what to say next. You're reading the entire room. And the cost? Silence gets misunderstood. People assume you're disengaged, when you're actually the most aware person there. If even 2 of these feel uncomfortably accurate, you're going to want to hear the rest. Pattern 4. The contradiction radar. Your brain constantly cross-checks everything. A statistic sounds off. A story doesn't align. You catch it instantly, like hearing a slightly off note in music. Once you notice it, you can't ignore it. You don't just hear information. You audit it. Pattern 5. Thinking in dimensions. Ask you a simple question, and you pause. Not because you don't know, but because you see too many possibilities. You rewrite messages multiple times. Not because you're unsure, but because you see every way it could be misunderstood. While others think in straight lines, you think in layers. Pattern 6. The willingness to be wrong. Most people defend their opinions. You revise yours. New evidence shows up. You adjust. You might even come back later and say, I think I was wrong. To others, that looks like uncertainty. But in reality, you'd rather be accurate than right. Pattern 7. Resistance to consensus. When everyone agrees too quickly, something feels off. You think, is this true or just comfortable? Agreeing without believing it feels physically wrong. So you question it, not to be difficult, but because your mind refuses to outsource truth. Here's the key insight. Extreme intelligence isn't just more thinking. It's different wiring. Highly intelligent brains often use both sides more actively. They process more input, more deeply, more often. They also experience what psychologists call overexcitabilities, meaning the world feels more intense. Which explains why silence feels necessary and noise feels overwhelming. If you grew up as the smart one, there's a hidden cost. You were praised for being right, not for trying. So failure started to feel dangerous. You may have learned early that being understood was rarer than being correct. So you adapted. You stayed quiet. You simplified yourself. You laughed at things you didn't find funny, just to fit into spaces that never really fit you. And over time, that turns into something deeper. Burnout, overthinking, and a kind of loneliness that's hard to explain. Because high intelligence doesn't always make life easier. Sometimes, it just makes it lonelier. So if you recognize yourself in this, you're not broken. You're not too much. And you're definitely not alone. You're just operating on a level most environments weren't designed for. And the solution isn't to shrink yourself. It's to find people who don't need you to. The right rooms won't make you feel like an outsider. They'll make you feel understood. If this felt a little too accurate, don't ignore it, subscribe. Because most people won't understand how your mind works. But here you will. And if this hit home, drop a comment. Because the loudest rooms rarely hold the deepest thinking.